What's up, everybody? This is something new we're bringing you guys. I'm Sidney, and I have my buddy, my partner with me.
Hello.
Hello. What's your name, dude? I don't think people out there know you.
Oh yeah, Larry.
All right, Larry. So yeah, I'm Sidney. That's Larry, and this is the first official DeafNotes podcast that we're doing. I know you guys heard that. What's the DeafNotes? I don't know what it is. It's a name we came up with. Whether you like it or don't, we don't give a shit. I think it's cool. Larry thinks it's cool. If you don't like it, fuck off.
Wow.
I know, right? It's a good way to start. So this podcast is kind of cool and weird. We're trying something out. Me and Larry have been buddies for years now. We both work together, or we used to work together, but we always found ourselves talking about music and the music that we like. And it seems like every year since we've been knowing each other, we find out that we're in love with the same artist or band. It's happened maybe like 4 times total, I think. And we decided to start talking about it, man. So I don't know, Larry. What do you think, man? Do you like this idea of us talking about music? I mean, you're here, but what do you think, man, about all this? Us talking about our favorite music and bands.
Oh, I think it's a good idea. I mean, honestly, we used to basically pass the time at work by just talking about bands, and we
Exactly.
quickly realized, whoa, we like a lot of the same stuff, and then we were telling
Yep.
each other about stuff we didn't know about, and that's kind of what this is about: is sharing music that you might not know about, and
Yep.
digging on new stuff.
Yeah, man. We're digging into our old CD collections. I was definitely a CD collector. And
Me too.
cassette tape collector. Actually, I'm still a collector, but not for music. Everything's digital now, but I still collect movies. I have hundreds of Blu-rays, hundreds of Blu-rays. But yeah, I always was a collector. I like most people. I don't think there's a lot of people in the world who don't like music, but I've always loved the music. Me and Larry, it was funny when we first started talking about music because if you looked at both of us, you would never expect that we like the same type of music. I'm like a gigantic, huge black dude from the lower Ninth Ward, New Orleans, and Larry's a skinny little white kid who's a great musician in his own rights,
Thank you.
guitarist. You're welcome. And seeing us together, you would never expect that yeah, we like a lot of the same music. And it's weird, man. I think I'm gonna start off by talking about how I came to get into music and and fall in love with music and what kind of made me like it, and you can do the same at some point. And I had a strange upbringing. Like I grew up, I had a good household with my mom and my dad, but my dad was an avid music collector. I still have his collection of vinyl today. Not all of it because a lot of it got destroyed in Hurricane Katrina, but I still actually recently this year I found the old crate that he had with all of his with most of his vinyl in it, and it's kind of cool and special. But yeah, when I was growing up, man, like I was always weird. I was always the weird black kid. Still am today, actually. If you ask people, the weird black dude who liked a lot of like rock and roll music, but nobody really knew about it because I didn't have friends who listened to that type of music. All of my friends were black kids like myself who listened to hip hop and rap and I grew up listening to in New Orleans to Master P and No Limit Records and Juvenile and Cash Money Records and
Hootie hoo!
Hootie Hoo, man, Hootie Hoo, dude, and like Wu Tang Clan and Biggie and Rex and Effect, Criss Cross, Bone Thugs and Harmony. That was all the type of music I listened to when I was a kid. Like, all over the place, just weird stuff. I loved it, but I also kind of got into listening to like some rock and roll, not a lot because my dad didn't own a lot of rock and roll music, but one of the first albums I heard that was rock and roll that he owned was Jimi Hendrix with the Jimi Hendrix Experience. And when I first heard like some Jimi Hendrix playing, it kind of, obviously I don't know how to play the guitar, I don't know how to play instruments. I'm not a musician. I just have a pretty good ear for music, I would think, but I've never been a musician. I played tuba in high school, but it sucked. I wanted to play the drums, but I was big, so big dudes play a tuba, which is what they make you do. And I was terrible at it. I hated playing the tuba. But but yeah, man. So Jimi Hendrix was my first, foray into rock and roll, and I kind of got hooked. After that, I started, and this was probably like around 13, maybe 14 when I heard Jimi Hendrix. That my dad had one of his vinyls, and it was the only rock and roll thing he had. I think he had like like Kansas. I think
Nice.
like I'm trying to think of stuff he had. He didn't have like a lot of rock and roll, and that's like Kansas isn't even rock and roll really, but just music that he had like the Bee Gees. Like I'm thinking about music that wasn't like R&B, soul, and hip hop and stuff. So he had like Bee Gees, Jimi Hendrix, like I said, Kansas. He had I'm trying to
That's
think of other people.
a interesting variety too.
There's a lot more, but that's the only three that popped in my head at the moment. But anyway, to make a long story short, um, yeah, so I started and movies were a big, which most of you who know me probably know I love movies. That's kind of my number one passion in life. And movies were another foray into rock and roll and music because I watched a lot of movies, and most movies have great rock and roll soundtracks and scores to them. And the album that I'm going to be bringing to you today to check out that I want you to listen to, I found this album from a movie, and I'll tell you more about that later. So, what about you, man? How'd you get into music?
Um, when I was probably 9 or 10, I had an older sister, still do,
Hmm.
and she and her friends exposed me to a lot of stuff. I started off uh, definitely listening to hip hop first, probably.
Hmm.
I remember it was Wu Tang, Coolio, God, Gangster's Paradise. That
Oh yeah,
song.
I love Coolio too, dude.
I mean, look, you say what you want. That
It's
song
so
is
dope.
epic,
No,
especially
Gangster's Paradise. What was the first one? Fantasy. What was the first one? Was
fan.
called Fantasy.
Was it fantasy? I think it
I
was.
think I can't remember what the Come Along and Ride on the
Oh,
Fantastic
such a
Voice.
good
Yeah,
album.
I mean Coolio was dope, dude. For his time, he was
Yep,
amazing. And Gangster's Paradise is obviously one of the best rap songs of all time, in my opinion. It's so
I
classic.
agree.
Yeah.
So then, started. One of her friends had some tapes. I borrowed them, and it was Corn, Deftones, 9 Inch Nails, and Smashing Pumpkins.
Yes, 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 and yes. All all great albums and musicians. I love them all.
And it was like Siamese Dream by Smashing Pumpkins, Adrenaline by the Deftones, the self-titled Corn album, and I think Smells Like Children by Marilyn Manson. And I was like, "Oh, this is awesome because it's got the same hard-hitting drums as hip hop, but
Right.
then it's got all these other instruments and a lot of it was very theatrical."
Yes.
So, especially those artists, so I was like, "Yeah, this is cool." So then about a year later, I started playing clarinet in the school band, and I was constantly trying to play "The Beautiful People" by Marilyn Manson on the clarinet,
That's
and it
awesome.
it, it pissed people off to no fucking end. They were like,
Of
it was
course
just
it
like,
would, dude. and,
and
and and back then, Marilyn Manson was like, he was like the cool rock star. Like he wasn't. It
yep,
was kind of like forbidden to listen to Marilyn Manson at that time because he was like, worship the devil and dark magic, and Marilyn Manson's like the son of Satan and
uh,
all this crazy shit. It was crazy with Marilyn Manson back then, dude. I loved it.
oh man. So I went to Catholic school at that point, which I
Yeah,
eventually got kicked out of, and
it's funny. We,
everyone
we, we both we both were in the band. We both went to Catholic school. That's of course. I went to Catholic school too.
everyone hated me at that school. I had the
Yeah.
Marilyn Manson like lightning bolt symbol on every notebook I owned. 9 Inch Nails patches all over my backpack. Everyone hated
Right.
me. Got picked on all the time. So then music just became my thing, man. I learned how to play guitar,
Hmm.
started joining bands. I sang in bands. I played guitar in bands. I played bass in
Self
bands, toured
self
for a
taught, right?
while.
You self taught yourself how to play guitar, right?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean,
Hmm.
Jimmy.
I do know
Like
Jimmy.
he taught me some stuff and we kind of became best friends and he shared so much with me, but
Hmm.
ultimately it became a big part of my life. I mean, I toured in a bunch of bands. I
Right.
became an audio engineer for a living. That's how you and I met.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, music's like my main escape today. It's what I do all the time. So, that's
Yeah.
it.
I mean, it's a big part of your life. It's a big part of my life, and it's one of the things that our friendship has kind of brought us together because we both love music and we both love weird, cool old music, and not that much into new music unless it's kind of what it is. But we both are more into like older '90s music and shit like that.
Oh
But
yeah.
but yeah, man. So there you guys have it. This is kind of me and Larry's backstory of what happened, and basically, like I would say, a year ago, maybe more than even a year, we started talking about
Mhm.
eventually one day getting together and just doing something and talking about music, since it's what we do normally anyway. Um, and now with us we're currently recording this in the great epic coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic quarantine. So we were like, man, we're home. Neither one of us are working. We both been let go from our jobs or whatever. So we were like, man, let's start talking about music, dude. I mean,
Hmm.
I think I told you earlier, I go for little walks every day just to kind of, get my mind off of stuff and get some cardio and exercise. And I listen to music on my walks. I listen to music while I'm playing video games and I'm playing Madden online. I Spotify music while I'm playing. So
Me too.
it, you too, yeah. So we're both still love music and still mess around with it. So we thought that we would come up with this little podcast where we both each every time we record try to tell each other, make each other listen to one of our favorite, albums or artists of all, not of all time, just favorite music, basically. So that's what we're doing now, guys. Me and Larry are both gonna talk about different different artists, and then we're both gonna talk about different artists that the other one suggests that we listen to. And we're gonna just kind of gonna be the flow of things for the podcast, unless we decide to change it. But right now, that's what it is, and I think I'm gonna start off, I guess. And so the band I'm bringing to us today that I want Larry to listen to. It's a band. If you've never heard of them, you probably don't know rock and roll. Um, I know he knew who this band was because everybody knows who this band is, and I just thought this album was one of my first purchases that I bought of music that was rock and roll that wasn't like hip hop and rap. I remember. Okay, so I'll stop beating around the bush. So I wanted Larry to listen to The Doors, their first self-titled album, titled The Doors, obviously, because it's one of my favorite albums of all time, and The Doors is one of my favorite bands. I'm a big Jim Morrison stan, and I thought it would be kind of a cool album for us to talk about and listen to. And I know you said you hadn't listened to it in a really long time, so I thought it would be kind of a good introduction for us. And
I
yeah,
had never
man.
heard it the
So,
whole way through, like
which is
not in one listen, you know?
that's even better. So I'm glad that I picked something that you hadn't even heard all the way through because listen to this album all the way through it's a tour. It's The Doors are a band. I'm gonna give you guys a little synopsis about them before I let Larry tell us what he thought about the album. So for those of you that don't know, The Doors were an American rock band formed in Los Angeles in 1965 with vocalist, lead singer Jim Morrison, keyboardist Ray Manzarek, I think is how you say his last name, guitarist Robbie Krieger, and drummer John Densmore. They were among the most controversial and influential rock acts of the 1960s, mostly because of Morrison's lyrics and voice, along with his erratic stage persona. And the group was widely regarded as an important part of that era's counterculture. That's just a little synopsis from Wikipedia. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if you haven't heard of the Doors, you've probably seen something of them in pop culture, not even knowing what it was. Pictures of Jim Morrison in movies, their music in movies, people wearing T-shirts with the Doors, or just Jim Morrison. Kind of, for those of you who don't know, he died at a really young age. Was it a young age or did he die older? I can't remember now
It
that
was
I
a
said
young
that.
age.
It was young
Young
age, right?
age.
Yeah, he died young. So Jim Morrison died really young,
Is he
and he
part of the 27 Club?
what the young the
The
under 27.
27-year-olds, Jimi Hendrix, Janis
I'll
Joplin.
I'll look that up. That's possible. Um, but hold on, really. So while I'm looking that up, let me see.
I feel
Yes,
like
he
he's
is. He is. He died at age 27, so he just
yep.
made it. Yep. So yeah, so Jim Morrison is one of those people who, after he died, became living legend. Like they were a big band when they were out and they were popular, but when he died at such a young age, it kind of turned the music world upside down, and his music lived on, and he became like this crazy symbol for dying, at a young age of being super talented and not being able to live up to his full potential, I guess. But yeah, man. So you've probably seen them or heard their music and not even know it. And I'll go through some movies later, especially one movie in particular that brought the Doors to me. But actually, I'll do that now before I let you go, so I can get all that stuff out the way. So the Doors. This is how I found the Doors. As I said before, I watched a lot of movies, and when I was a kid, I watched a lot of movies with my dad that I probably shouldn't have watched. But he didn't care. He let me watch whatever he was watching. He never kind of turned the TV off or told me to close my eyes and go in the room. My dad was crazy like that. He let me watch anything. So I was about 13 or 14. This had to be 95, 96-ish era, I guess. And my dad was in the front room and he was watching this little movie where this guy is in this room. kind of going crazy, doing karate, drinking what I think was whiskey or rum or something, and breaking mirrors and watching the fan in the ceiling, making it look like it's a helicopter spinning. And that movie is Apocalypse Now. So when I was like 13 or 14, I walked in on my dad watching Apocalypse Now. My dad was a war vet, and he loved all those war movies. I don't know if he loved them or not, but he watched a lot of war movies. So I don't know if it made him reminisce about shit or whatever. I don't know. But he was watching Apocalypse Now. Walked in right in the beginning, and this song started playing. And I even back then, like 14, 13, I watched a lot of movies, but I had never seen a montage like the opening credits of Apocalypse Now, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, with Martin Sheen, basically almost naked, half naked in his room, going crazy with the Doors, "The End" playing in the background. And it kind of blew my mind, man. As a kid, I saw that, and the music immediately resonated with me. I don't know what it was. I'd never heard the Doors before, but that song just kind of blew my mind. The way it was kind of slow, and then got higher. Then at the end, just kind of got crazy as Martin Sheen's going crazy and cutting himself and punching mirrors and doing karate. It was just the craziest shit I ever seen at the time in the movie. I didn't watch the rest of the movie because at 13 or 14 years old, Apocalypse Now made absolutely no sense to me. So after that scene, I watched like a little bit of Harrison Ford in like a room talking to some army people, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to my room and play games. But that scene kind of went crazy. Are you still there, Larry?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I was make sure I didn't lose you. But yeah, so that introduced me to the Doors. My dad didn't have the Doors music, but I always remember that song. And when I got a little older, I went to a record store here in the city, and when I was like doing my finding cool music that I heard a long time ago thing, I found the Doors album, but it was on cassette tape, and I purchased it, and I think I listened to it like 75 times, dude. It was something I had never heard before. It was insane. And The End, which is one of my favorite songs of all time, is like literally like an 11, a 12 minute, I think, song. It goes on forever. Um, yeah, and I just ever since then I started listening to a lot of Doors music, and I love a lot of their music. I don't love every album that they ever made. I love a lot of songs from the albums, but their first album is the one that I kind of resonate the most with because it was the first thing I heard, and I like that album from front to end. But yeah, that's my door story, man, and that's why I thought it would be kind of cool to talk about it, because they're a unique group. Everybody's like the Doors. Famously in the movie Almost Famous, Lester Bangs, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, has a line where he says that they're just drunken buffoons. You know, they don't really know, they're not great musicians. They're just drunken buffoons, which might be true because a lot of their music is just Jim Morrison doing poetry, talking a lot of jibber jabber over the great musicians, just playing the hell out of their instruments. And it makes sense sometimes. A lot of times it doesn't make sense. But when it does make sense and the music goes with it, it's kind of euphoric. I think The End is the perfect tune for them. I think it's their best song they ever made. And yeah, man. So what did you think of your first time listening to the Doors straight through? All right, if you have any knowledge about the Doors beforehand, you can talk about it. But what do you think of the album?
Honestly,
Yeah,
oh,
be honest, please.
how many people gonna hate me for this?
No, everybody.
Not the
Oh,
biggest fan.
nah, that's so funny. First album, he doesn't like it. That's great. Great choice. I love it. I'm glad you don't like it kind of in a weird way.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
My experience with the Doors is nowhere near yours. Like
Yes.
I was not exposed to them in a way
Mhm.
that like resonates with me.
Right.
So, I started listening to the album, got through the first 3 songs, had to take a break. And it was
That's funny.
because it was like the first 2 songs, even though I like them, I like
Yeah.
rock music, they just didn't stand out to me very much.
Right.
Um, but that 3rd song, Crystal Ship, it almost sounds like
Hmm.
it doesn't even belong on the album.
That's
It's
funny.
just it's so slow, it's so tamed down from the first 2.
Yeah.
And then like Alabama Song and
Yes.
End of the Night and The End. I don't think any of those songs fit on the album, but those are the ones I liked.
Yeah. No, they're all of those songs are different. This is a weird album, their first album, because it's a mix of a lot of what would eventually be weird Doors music. They have like their what I would consider rock and roll pop songs on this album, like "Break On Through to the Other Side," which is, if you listen to the lyrics, is a really cool like kind of dark song, but it's really poppy. Like it was, and I think that was their first actual
It
song
was,
that
yeah, I
kind of
think it
went on the
was too.
radio. Yeah.
Well, that
Um,
song I've heard so many times.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
movie trailers, just everywhere. It's
Yeah.
just always
That's
licensed somewhere, you know?
yeah,
And I like that song.
that's definitely their biggest song of their in my opinion of their whole catalog because it's probably the most popular one. But yeah, I mean,
You don't think "Light the Fire" or whatever?
well, I was about to get to Light My Fire. I think that was Break On Through to the Other Side for some reason because I've heard that in more movies and in more TV commercials and stuff than any of their other music. So that's probably why I'm saying that. But I could be wrong. But I just feel like that song is Light My Fire. I think is a better song than Break On Through to the Other Side. But I feel like for some reason that song is just something that people when they think of the Doors they think of. And I could be wrong. I don't know what people think of the Doors. I haven't talked. You're the first person. No, that's wrong. I'm not the first. I've talked to a few people about the Doors, but you're the first person I'm talking to in depth about any of their music. So it's kind of cool.
So just to continue with what I was thinking, Light My Fire?
It's Light My Fire.
Alright,
7 minutes long. A lot of instrument playing in that
I
in
don't
that
like
song.
that song. I'm never
Hmm.
gonna like that song. Yeah, I've
Right.
heard it a million times.
Hmm.
If you go to a sporting event, they're gonna play it. Like, I don't need to hear that song ever again.
Nice.
So but the 4 songs I did like, I
Yeah.
really liked. Like, that Alabama song, The
Which
Whiskey,
which
uh,
isn't even their song. That's a song from somebody from the 1920s that they kind of remade, I guess.
it sounds
Yeah.
like polka music on acid. I
It
freaking
does sound
love
like
it.
it does sound like weird polka music for sure.
And what was hard for me with this album is I listen to some weird stuff, like stuff that normal music listeners will never listen to because it's basically just noise.
Yes.
So I'm open to experimental, but like
Hmm.
all right, here's what it is. I've always liked the Doors, especially Riders in the Storm.
Yes.
I do have a little bit of a connection to that song. I
Hmm.
like the album Morrison Hotel a lot.
Yeah, I like that
Um,
album as well.
but this album, I don't think it flows very well from start to finish. So I
Hmm.
think that I would enjoy it more like listening to it off and on.
Right.
I think that's why I didn't like it as much as I thought I would is like the full listen through for the first time.
Hmm.
It was a little tiring. Like, it was like there's some meandering parts, and then, like,
Yeah.
there's it's almost like a bunch of 2-minute songs, and then, holy crap, here's a 7-minute, and then we go into, like, a 14-minute song.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. You're absolutely right. I mean, it seems like they didn't know, what they were doing when they made this album. It was just like obviously they're talented dudes. They have a great lead singer with some crazy, lyrics for these songs, and they're awesome musicians. So basically when they made this album, it was just these guys who had before this, I think, were just performing in like bars and nightclubs and shit like that.
Mhm.
And they decided to kind of put an album together, and they just kind of took a lot of like to me, it's almost like I don't know this for a fact, but I feel like I almost know the songs that different dudes liked in the band. Like I feel like it's obvious to me that stuff like The End and Light My Fire and End of the Night, all that stuff was like stuff that Jim Morrison like really dug. If you know his persona and the way he kind of carried himself, he was a
Well, it's the more theatrical songs.
yes, he was very into the showmanship. He
Yeah.
liked being crazy on stage, and basically for a long time he would perform on stage with his back to the crowd. He wouldn't turn and face the crowd when he performed, and people hated that, and it was like basically him doing his build up to, at some point throughout the show he would turn around and would be like, oh my god, he's showing himself. It's cool. He liked the actors. Jim Morrison was a film major. He went to I think UCLA or something like that, and he wanted to make movies. He wanted to be a filmmaker, and he did. I think he did make a lot of little films in film school, but he ended up like kind of accidentally joining this band in a weird way, and it kind of made it what it is because you take his weird theatrics and stage presence, his voice, and the music that these guys play. Because I always looked at the Doors as this weird group of misfits who was like this one dude is insane and he just likes talking to people on a mic for you don't know how long it's going to be. It could be 2 minutes or it can be 20 minutes. And he'll just go into these rants and the other guys just kind of have to literally play music along with him and kind of ride his vibe, like ride his flow of how he's gone. Like some of my favorite stuff, even though I love their first album, some of my favorite music is their live albums because you really get a sense of how they would perform in front of people, and it would just be
I was about to say that. I like their live albums better
yeah,
than their actual albums.
the live albums are so dope, dude, because it's basically just Jim Morrison just going on these long tirades of lyrics and just poetry, and just the musicians, the artists and guys trying to try to play guitar along with him and kind of flow with him. And sometimes I would go fast, I would go slow. They would stop. It was just it's crazy. It's weird. But yeah, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. It's definitely a weird album with radio songs and non-radio songs.
Hmm.
Um, which seems like, I don't know why they did it like that. Maybe they figured it was good to put a lot of radio songs because it would get played, like they were trying to think of another market, but they also wanted to put like songs that kind of felt like their live performances, which is like The End and Light My Fire and stuff like that. So I don't know, man, but it's that's so I did not expect you to do that. It's kind of cool. I'm kind of glad you kind of like in a weird way,
I
because
mean, it's not.
if we both just kind of talked about our love for it, it would be kind of overkill. So that's kind of cool. But
I
I get it.
mean,
It's fine, man. It's not for everybody, and I understand. I know the type of music you like, and I know that there's some of it you do like and some of it you don't like. But I know why you don't like what you like, though. I totally understand.
it's just for me, for the basis of what we're doing with this,
Yes,
it's about listening like kind of continuously the whole way through and letting the album wash over you.
exactly. That's
And
exactly what we're trying to do with this, for
this
sure.
album was just difficult to do that with because it's a little, and like I don't want to use the word frantic because I like that kind of thing. Like I like
Yeah.
Daughters, that's the most
Yes.
frantic music on the planet.
Absolutely.
Who, by the way, there is no way that the singer to Daughters is not influenced by Jim Morrison.
No, well, for sure, dude. I mean,
There is no way.
a lot of rock and roll and like metal dudes, or not metal, but mostly like rock and roll dudes who sang are influenced by Jim Morrison, because he was just one of those dudes, man. Like he had a look. I mean, even the way he dressed,
He
like
was the
the
arty
way
weird guy.
he was, dude. Like even the way he dressed, like movies like The Lost Boys. If you look at the Lost Boys, the '80s, I think it's the late '80s vampire flick, which is one of my favorite
Mhm.
movies, is heavily like Joel Schumacher in that movie is heavily influenced by Jim
Yeah,
Morrison and the Doors. There's even a gigantic
you can tell.
picture of Jim Morrison in the cave for the vampires. If you see it, like as soon as you go in that cave for the vampires, there's a
Mhm.
huge photo of Jim Morrison.
I
But
remember
yeah,
that.
the way those guys dress, the way the vampires dress, it's like rock and roll, leather jacket, Jim Morrison vibe. So
Yeah,
it totally makes sense. But yeah, I think a lot of people are, dude, and it's evident in a lot of music that we'll probably talk about later on. But yeah, man. So it's cool, dude. I'm glad that you were able to listen to it, even though it took you a couple of days to get through.
it
Then
did. It took
to
me
get
4 days.
it took you 4 days to get through 11 tracks. That is insane. That's it. It took me 4 days to get through 11 songs. That is crazy to me. That's so funny. But hey, it's Larry, man. What can you do? It
Yeah.
took him 4 days to get through
And, like,
11 tracks. It's so crazy.
the saddest part is, like, I probably listened to 400 other bands' tracks during that 4-day period.
Yeah, that's hey, man.
Easily.
All I could say is I'm glad you got through it.
I did.
Yeah, I'm glad you got through it. I'm
Hey,
kind of glad that it's the first time you listen to the whole thing through.
and I still
Even if you
like The
don't like, I
Doors.
think it's cool. Exactly, of course. Even if you don't like it, it's even if you don't like a lot of songs, you're still a
I
fan of the band.
like The
So that's
Doors.
all it does. Yeah, you like
Yeah.
it. So yeah, so that's the first album that I suggested. It wasn't a home run with my buddy Larry. It wasn't a knockout of the park. I'm gonna try to do better next time I pick.
I mean,
But
it was a bunt, you know?
yeah, it was a butt. It was a butt. So he got the first base.
I'm
He got the
kidding.
first base. He got the first base. But now let's bring up the album that you suggested for me, man. Tell me about your pick and why you chose it.
Alright, so I picked, an album called Soundtracks by the
Hmm.
band Can. Um,
Yes.
some of the reasons I picked this is, number one, when Sydney picked something from the '70s, I was like, okay, I could do something from the '90s, 2000s, and be really different.
Yes.
But then I was like, let me think about something in that time period so that the aesthetic would still kind of match up.
Yeah.
Because like we wrote, I always think of it like this: albums from that time period are a very different experience than albums today. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
so different, and
Yeah. They don't make music like and our albums like they make
oh
like they used to make them back then. It's
no,
impossible. They just don't do it.
they don't do it. And and
No.
and the thing is like I Can for me is not a band that I know tons of history about or any of that. Basically, I was given the tape, like the
Hmm.
literal little cassette tape of Soundtrack by a friend in like freshman year of high school.
Hmm.
and just fell in love with it. And the
Nice.
thing I like about it is it's not a normal album.
Not at
It's
all.
a collection of music Can wrote for movies
Right.
from like the late 60s, early 70s. It and I don't think it's the best flowing album ever, but what I like about it is this, it marries my 2 favorite things: songs that can stand on their own and film score music.
Yes,
And
I
that
agree.
is my 2 favorite things about music. So, for me, I was like, this album was such an eye opener because there's crazy instrumentation on it. I mean, I think there's clarinet in one song. I think there's a flute. It's just insane, you
Yeah,
know?
they use a
Um
lot of music from what I found out recently after listening to them. It's kind of cool.
But Can, I guess I should have said this at first. They were a German experimental rock band
Hmm.
formed in Cologne in 1968. Um, and their bass player, whose name I probably will butcher, Holger Zuke,
It
um,
sounds correct to me.
he is just a genius. I mean, as an audio engineer and as somebody who produces music and is really into recording,
Yeah,
he was one of the first to start splicing tapes together and basically doing stuff that modern producers and hip hop artists do with reel to reel tape.
yeah. I think it's cool that it says on his thing that he's the bass player and tape editing, which is like I never
Yep.
see anybody in a band where it says tape editing. So right off the bat, that's kind of different and kind of cool, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he used to literally they'd record their takes or whatever, and
Hmm.
then he would cut the tape and splice them together to make new drum patterns and weird stuff. And nobody was doing that back then. That's innovation, really.
Absolutely,
And that's
that's
all people do
crazy.
today.
I
All
know,
modern pop music is edited, cut together. It's warped, it's messed with,
all through a computer.
all through a computer. This dude's sitting there doing it with a razor blade and some tape.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, it's insane to think about. Just, I mean, not even talk about music, but just people back then from that era, like the way they had to be. They had to come up with different ways to kind of do cool shit, you know. And it's like the fact that this guy kind of started doing that back then with music was just so cool and experimental. And I'm actually a little pissed at myself for never having heard of these dudes before. Who's really quick? Who's some other people that were in the band? I know it's what, like four of them, 4 or 5 members.
Well, they had some member changes. Like I know they went through a good amount of singers, I believe.
Mhm.
In fact, I believe Soundtracks. I don't know if the original singer is on that one or if he was already gone because it's like their second album. But
One of their lead singers afterwards was Japanese, right?
I
At
believe
some point.
so. I believe so. Ermin Schmidt played keyboards. Michael Caroli was guitar, and Jackie Lebeats was the drummer.
Nice. It's good.
Um,
If that's how you say his name, that's a cool last name for a drummer. LeBeats.
yep. Oh yeah, I didn't even put that together.
Pretty
So
cool.
they did have a lot of random touring members and
Hmm.
temporary musicians they hired because their pieces were a little too big to just have 4 people playing them at times.
Right.
So I don't know. What did you think of it? Tell me what you thought.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to say about the group Can. Unlike you with the Doors, I had never heard of Can before. Never heard any of their music whatsoever. So I was excited when you told me to check them out and check out this specific album soundtracks. And since you told me that the first time I heard the album, I've been listening to Can like on repeat constantly. Like
Nice.
I'm kind of in love with this band and their music, dude. I don't know why. I do know why, and we'll talk about it later. But this music is fucking awesome, dude. Like this album in general is great. It's not it's another short album, kind of like the Doors album, but it's dope, dude. Like this soundtrack album has only 7 tracks on it, right?
Hmm.
And it's only 35 minutes, so you literally can listen to it while you go to get gas in your car and come back home, and it'll be done.
True.
But
That is true.
very true. But yeah, man, the fact that these songs were from um, movies that they've scored that I've never seen before, and I actually one of their movies I have to look for it because my favorite song on the album is the title track, "Deadlock."
Hmm.
It's not really the title track, but it's the first song on the album. And all I gotta say is, man, what a way to start off an album, dude! Because it's my favorite song on the album, and I was just, it basically it destroyed the album for me because once I heard that as the first song, I fell in love with the music instantly, and no other song on the album was as good as that first song. So,
I
and
actually agree with you.
yeah,
That is
and
exactly what happens.
yeah, it's not a bad thing. I still loved all the rest of the music, but that first song just hits so hard, dude. I was like, man,
Mhm.
one day, I love like adding music. I have this big list, long playlist of hundreds of songs that I have of music that I want to use in movies, and this Deadlock song, which is from a movie called Deadlock, I plan to use one day in a film because it is a fantastic opening song. But yeah, Can's great, dude. I mean, since listening to that soundtrack album, I've downloaded a bunch of their music. Delay 1968, the Lost
Nice.
Tapes, which was kind of more recent, came out 2014. I kind of listened to Monster Movie. I listened to like I've listened to a lot of their
That's a
shit,
good
dude.
one. Monster Movie. That's
Yeah,
their first album.
yeah, it's their music is dope, dude. I love it. Um, yeah, I can't say anything more about it. I mean, it was definitely it wasn't a bunt. It was a home run for this because these guys are fantastic. And I loved all of the music, man. I would say, like I already said, I think my favorite song definitely is Deadlock, and I also love is it Mother Sky or Soul Desert? Which one is like the 14-minute song? I can't
Mother
remember
Sky.
exactly. Yeah, I love Mother Sky because it's just a lot of music, and I love rock and roll music where they just play instruments for a long period of time.
Really?
I
So
love
you
that,
like
dude. I mean,
you like the jam aspect, like
oh,
the
it's one of my favorite things of any music. Like even in modern day music, it's one of the reasons why I really liked Kanye West when he first was coming out because I felt like as a hip hop artist and as like a producer, he would put extra music in his songs. Like he would have songs that would start off for a while before people even talk. And he would just have
mhm.
like Timbaland did a lot as well. And I'm just relating rock and roll hip hop, but I love
It's
music.
like their own Easter eggs.
Yes, exactly. Like I just love music where it's not always about the vocals. It's sometimes you just let the. That's one of the reasons why I like the Doors. I mean, the Doors does that a lot. When Jim Morrison is not talking and they're just the musician and the artist, the guitarist and guys are just playing music, and I
Oh,
love that.
like, I will say that I forgot to say something about Doors, but
Yeah.
it goes along with what you just said.
hmm What?
Okay. The last song, is it called The End?
The end. Yeah.
Okay. At the end, when it explodes after,
Yeah.
like,
I didn't
11
even.
minutes of, like, weird meandering, and
I
he's
didn't, I
yelling,
didn't, I
like
didn't even. I didn't even talk about that. But that's like one of my favorite endings of a song ever.
he
It's so
starts
good.
yelling Morrison starts yelling "fuck" or something over and
Yeah,
over again?
he's talking about like his like fucking a mom or something like that in verse. And if you look at
Oh,
the
is he
lyrics,
really?
yes, he's talking about like fucking a mother
I didn't even
and he just says fuck over and over and over again, like fuck me baby and shit like that. Yeah,
it's so good, though. Like,
it's insane.
that is probably my favorite part of that album. When that thing
Yeah,
exploded, I was like, "Alright."
absolutely.
And I
Yeah,
couldn't believe it because 'cause I'm like, "This is one of the longest songs. How could this be?"
yeah, and after doing some research on that song, we're gonna get back to Canvas really quick because we didn't really talk
I
about
know.
the end that
I
much.
just had to say that part.
No, I'm glad you said it because I want to talk about that song in general and I forgot. But yeah, I mean, that song was made to like two different tracks. Basically, they recorded it. It's basically two tracks cut into one to make it seem like one continuous long song.
Oh, really?
Apparently, but yeah, man, like at the end of that song, he just and that's one of the things I love about Jim Morrison in general and some of the Doors music. Like one of my favorite songs, "When the Music's Over," is another song on my list of movies to play, list of music to play in movies. I think that song is a great intro to a movie if you ever like a gangster movie, something like that. But when the music's over, there's just these parts in some of their music. It happens in the end where Jim Morrison just loses his shit. You know what I mean? He just
Yeah. It's a
throughout the
climax.
yeah, it's like throughout and he's we talked about he's like really thematic and he's all about the showmanship and building
Mhm.
tension and setting the stage and he a lot of the song he would be like talking low and like stuff like that and then he would at some point into the song just start yelling and screaming and just going crazy and losing his shit. It's like that's what I love that. That's one of the reasons why I love like heavy metal and because I love people screaming on music. But it has to be like put to like good beats and good music. Like, it has to make sense. I don't just like an entire song people screaming. Like it has to be
So,
a crescendo. I love
yeah,
music that crescendos.
the whole loud, soft
Yeah,
dynamic of music is literally my favorite part of music.
yeah, me too, dude.
That's
That's why
why I like
actually,
the Deftones so much because
yes,
they do the loud, quiet thing better than anybody.
yeah. I mean, that's why we both like Radiohead. I mean, it's like a
Mhm.
lot of bands that we love. That's exactly because I love what I call cinematic music, and it's not
Me
really
too.
a real term, but
No, it
I
is.
feel
It definitely
yeah
is.
yeah like I love music that's cinematic. Like I love music that tells a story. and I love music that builds tension in the song even when you're not even realizing it. And one of my favorite songs by Radiohead is "Climbing Up the Walls," um, which I think does that perfectly, where it just starts off slow and builds to this just operatic ending with Tom York screaming and just knocking over the music. And the Beatles' "Helter Skelter" is like that. Where, I mean, that song's kind of rock and roll the entire time, but the end of that song is just them like screaming and like knocking over music and
Yep.
beating guitars, and I got blisters on my fingers. Like, I love that type of shit.
Yep.
But yeah, so I love that too, man. So that's another reason why I love the Doors. I love musicians and singers who do that, because I feel it. Like when that shit happens, like I'm listening to the song, I almost feel like I'm there, like vibing with these dudes, going crazy and insane. So yeah, so that's a quick little thing on the Doors with the end, but that song's awesome. Check it out if you haven't heard it. But yeah, back to Can, man. So yeah, I would say, like I said, Deadlock is my favorite song on the album, but I pretty much love every song. In the beginning, the first time, I wasn't a huge fan of Tango Whiskey Man, the second song,
It's a weird
but
song.
it's a weird song, and I was like, yeah, if I had to pick one, this would probably be the one I probably won't listen to that much. But
Now, do
after
you
listening,
think it's because it comes after your favorite song and is kind of like a total departure?
that might have something to do with it. I'm not sure, but it's definitely a weird song to put out the Deadlock.
I
But
agree. Such a
but
weird.
yeah, it's such a weird song. But I would say after the last 2 days of like, because I've listened to this album now probably like 8 times, I think, if I can count on a hand.
Really?
And yeah, I listened to it probably like eight. It's I mean
That's
it's
awesome.
only 35 minutes. It's not that long, and I really
It
like it.
really
So
isn't long.
yeah, it's not long at all. So I would say, yeah, like the last couple of times, including yesterday and today, when I went for my walk and I listened to the album, I actually kind of love Tango Whiskey Man now. So I don't know what it is.
Mhm,
I don't know
mhm.
why in the beginning I didn't like it that much, but
It
I
takes
listened to it
time. It's
today.
gotta
Yeah,
marinate.
yeah, I listened to it yesterday and today, and I was like, I'm kind of wrong. This song's kind of fucking awesome as well.
I had the
So
same experience with that song.
yeah, so at the end of the day, I looked at it and I was like, this might be a perfect album. It's a music of music from movies, but after all 7 songs, dude, I kind of like every single one of them. Don't turn the lights on.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my favorites, and it's because it sounds like another band that I'll talk about the influence by Can, in my opinion. Probably this song sounds the most like that band.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, man. So Can is awesome. I want to thank you for recommending it. It's such a out the park, out the blue kind of recommendation, but I love it because I didn't know who they were, and now I love them, and they're one of my favorite bands. So
Nice.
you won this round. If we were going against each other, if this was a fucking contest, you would win. So you won, but congratulations. Can is awesome. What can I say?
Awesome. That's great.
German rock and roll, which is kind of funny if you really think about it,
Crowd
because both
rock is what they call it.
crowd rock.
Crowd
So
rock.
Can and the Doors both, in my opinion, fall in this category that was called like psychedelic rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's
Oh,
like
definitely, definitely.
this music that like that all the hippies and shit were listening to back in the day. With
LSD, baby.
yeah, taking LSD, wearing flower crowns,
Totally.
having sex, having orgies, doing drugs, and just listening to cool music, vibing out. Like that's what both of these bands
Mhm.
kind of brought to the table, which is kind of cool because we kind of did it accidentally, but it kind of just happened. So that's a good blend. So yeah, man. I mean, that's all I gotta say about Can. We can kind of move on if you want to, unless there's
Let's
anything.
do it.
What's your favorite track from the album? I didn't catch your favorite song from it. If you have
From the Can
if you have
album?
one, yeah, from the Can album.
So, for me, it's tough, but there's 2. It's either, the Deadbolt, the one that you said?
Yeah,
Deadlock, sorry, Deadlock.
Deadlock. Yeah,
Or She Brings the Rain, believe it or not, because She
oh,
Brings the Rain
that's a
has
nice
that
song too, dude.
it has that upright bass, that symphony line.
Absolutely.
Like, that song, for me, has been a
Hmm.
huge influence in my life on the idea of scoring film, because there are not a lot of scores these days that have vocals to them.
Right.
If they do, it's a popular radio song in Fast and the Furious.
Right.
It's not something a composer or a group of musicians wrote specifically for it.
Right.
It's rare, is all I'm saying.
I, I
So
don't I don't I don't think it happens hardly any now. I can't I can't
I
think, I
don't
can't
think
think of
so
the
either.
last. I can't think of the last movie where an actual band or musician, a real musician, not like
Yeah,
I
I
mean, yeah,
know.
made like a music for a movie. I can't think of when it happened, dude.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, Queen of the Dam, Jonathan Davis.
was it that is that the last one? That was like
That's
such a long
one
time
of the
ago.
last popular ones, I would say.
Nice. Which might be an album that might come up on this podcast at some
Oh, it's
point.
coming up on. Oh, dude,
Because
you and I.
me and you both love that album. So at some point
That
we got to talk about it.
that's it's happening, buddy.
Yeah, Queen of Damn soundtrack is amazing. So guys, if you want to hear some cool music for future, listen to Queen of Damn soundtrack. It's fucking
Oh,
fantastic.
that's so good.
Um, so that's cool, man. That's such a cool thing. That song kind of inspires you to kind of do what you want to do with like composing music. That's fucking awesome, dude.
Well,
That's so
because
cool.
like when you imagine this is what I think about.
Yeah,
I would love for Kanye to score a movie
me too, dude.
with lyrics and everything. I would watch the shit out of the worst movie on the planet
Yeah,
to watch Kanye go in his mind and be like, how do I convey
I,
emotion and whatever's going on in this film with my lyrics and my music? That shit would be amazing.
I think he would be great at it, man. I mean, it's a lot of our favorite musicians have done it. Obviously, Trent Reznor being one of the
Oh
biggest
yeah,
ones. We're both Nine Inch Nails fans, and Trent Reznor
but no vocals, right?
And no vocals. And Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross have both scored
Oh, tons of
a
shit.
lot of movies, like a lot of David Fincher films, and they're working constantly now on movies and TV shows, which
And
is
their
great.
scores are all amazing.
Yeah, they're. I
They're
mean,
real good.
how could they not be, dude? Those dudes,
I know.
those dudes are great. But yeah, I would love to hear somebody like Kanye West. Not crazy Kanye West, like old school,
Yeah, old
like
school.
Kanye West at his max, like maybe around the graduation era.
Yeah. Well,
Like
or 808 and Heartbreaks.
or 808 or even Yeezus. Like even Yeezus, he was a little crazy, but he was still like thinking out the box.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, now he's
but yeah,
kinda off the rails.
yeah, he's just I don't know what's going on with him now. He's a Kardashian, so who knows? But
Although I did like him and Kid Cudi's album they did together, the
oh yeah,
Ghosts one.
that was probably the last good music he's made. That Kids See Ghosts.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude, that
that's a
that
fantastic album.
record is
I
so
agree.
good.
Yeah, one of my favorite songs of the album is the song "Reborn,"
Oh, you
which
telling
is
me.
just probably one of the best songs made in recent time as far as hip
I
hop.
totally agree.
Yeah, and Kid Cudi's great too. He might make an appearance at some point. But yeah, I would love to see Kanye score a movie and actually do the music and just have the
Yep.
whole thing be him. It would be kind of cool and weird
I
because
want
a lot of his music is cinematic as well. Like he makes a lot of
it
music,
is.
especially music back in the day. He makes a lot of music that was that feels like thematic, you know, and like he's telling stories and shit with it. And Kanye West is great, man. He's a great composer, great music artist, and great hip hop rapper. You know, maybe not as of late, but him at his peak, he was fantastic. I mean, what can I say?
So, yeah, our point is basically we'd love to see more artists actually do this today.
Yes, absolutely.
Not to take away from film scores because me and Sydney are both huge fans of film scores in general.
Absolutely love him, dude.
Um,
I listen to film scores constantly.
so
It's
do
great.
I. And
Yeah.
I mean, for us, it's just that's what's so different about the Can album is that
Hmm.
it's not an album that was written to be together. It's a bunch of
Bunch of different music.
soundtrack music,
Yeah.
but it fits. And you're like, how does this work? It just does. And I agree with Sydney. Upon first listen, certain songs stick out, and you're like, is like Tango Whiskey. You're like, is that I don't know if that works here. And then
Right.
later you're like, oh shit, it does. And it's definitely like a slow burn, gotta let it
Yeah.
marinate type album.
Yeah. Everything, and you guys, other listeners, you know, if you're music fans, you listen to music. Everything doesn't always vibe with you when you first hear it. I mean, there's
Hmm.
some just great music that the first time you hear it, you love it, and there's some music just like some movies that just have to grow on you. Like if you give it if you could tell that it's good because it's coming from a good artist, and you just maybe don't listen to it for a little while, then go back to it later, you might get a different vibe from it. That's what happened with this song. I mean, I listened to this album, like I said, like 8 times, and like for the first 6 times, I might have skipped that song when I heard it because I wasn't vibing with it, and then I listened to it the last couple of days, and I was like, this song's awesome. So I don't know what I was on or what I was vibing with, but I wasn't feeling it, but now I'm feeling it. So who knows, man? Good music will do that to you, dude. You can listen to it
Yep,
today, you listen to it a year from now, you'll always find something different to like about it. So that's what good music does, man. Good music is
I
awesome.
agree.
That's why we love it, dude.
It's got a challenge in some way.
Absolutely. So next up, I figure we'll talk about these bands and how they influenced a lot
Okay.
of music today. So we can basically talk about we can start with the Doors since that's kind of what we've been doing. We'll do the Doors and we do Can, and
All right.
we can say because a lot of people won't know like who were influenced by a lot of these bands. So the Doors, who a lot of you probably could just guess by their sound and their type of music. A lot of people who kind of literally sound just like the Doors or even close. A lot of people who are inspired by the Doors. I'll start off with. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. If you
Oh,
guys are
love him.
into Nick Cave, who I love,
Love him.
love Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Awesome, cool music. Little trivia. The first time I heard Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds was in the movie Scream One. In the first Scream movie,
Oh, nice.
I had never heard his music before, and I heard that song. I can't remember exactly the name of the song is, but they play it in Scream, and I was like, this song's pretty dope. And I went back and found it, and then started listening to Nick Cave a lot. So his voice is dope. He's also an actor. For those of you who don't know, he's been in a lot of movies.
You know
Nick
how
Cave
I
is kind
found
of
out about
cool.
Nick Cave?
Oh,
His first band, The Birthday Party, is one of my
yeah,
favorite bands and has been since I was a teenager.
nice. That's awesome, dude. That's so
Oh,
cool.
I'm a huge Nick Cave fan.
There you go. So it's all synergy, man. It's all synergy. So so Nick Cave, Stone Temple Pilots
Oh, I see that,
were
definitely.
influenced by some
Scott
of the Doors.
Weiland.
Yeah, not a bunch, but in some of their music, like Wicked Garden, you can hear really
Mhm.
really Doors vibes and
Agree.
shit like that. This band probably two bands in particular I'll go to next. Nine Inch Nails as well, but that's not one of the bands I talk about. Nine Inch Nails was influenced a little by the Doors, with Trent Reznor having this whole Jim Morrison thing a little bit,
Mhm.
and his sound, the way he carries his voice and everything. But one band that I think, and once you hear the song, you know it. I mean, it's so Doors, like the Doors could have wrote it. It's Echo and the Bunnymen,
Oh, yeah.
and their number one song, "The Killing Moon,"
Mhm.
which I love and is super fun, cool, depressing, fun and depressing, which doesn't make sense, but it's a weird song, but it's super cool. And yeah, you can hear from Echo and the Bunnymen that they're just all they love the Doors, and it's obvious hearing their music that they're influenced by a lot of Doors music. And another one is Joy Division.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
if you hear, know who Joy Division is and heard their music, and you definitely can be like, yeah, there's definitely some Doors influences with that music, man. Especially their song "24 Hours," which just sounds like a Doors special. It's such a beautiful song. There's a lot of others, but I think those are the main ones that I realized. I was like, yeah, if you listen to this music, man, you'd probably be into the Doors because a lot of these guys, a lot of their sound kind of comes from the Doors and just basically just influence. Everybody's influenced by somebody. Everybody who makes music or listen to music has been influenced by somebody down the line, and it all just comes full circle, man. So, what do you think? Who's been influenced by Can
So I got 4.
for? Like, let me hear 'em.
First one, I think, is obvious to a lot of people, which is
Mhm.
Radiohead.
Yes,
Um,
Radiohead, without a doubt, which is probably one of the reasons why I love the band Can because I'm a huge Radiohead fan, and the song on the soundtrack album "Don't Turn the Light On" just is a Radiohead special. Like if you like Radiohead, you've never heard of Can before. If you don't want to listen to all their music, just go find the song "Don't Turn the Light On" because it just sounds like a Radiohead song, like
it
so
does. It
much,
sounds
dude.
exactly like a Radiohead
Exactly
song.
like it. It's crazy, but yeah, of course they're influenced by him.
Um, and a lot of people think that. A lot of the fan base think that.
Hmm.
A lot of people hear like early Tom York and even modern Tom York
Yeah,
in Can's vocals.
absolutely.
Um, then LCD Sound System,
Nice.
A Tribe Called Quest, and the
Tribe
Jesus and
Called
the
Quest.
Mary Chain, which I think
Nice.
is I think that goes about showing my thing about, and this is true for the Doors too, but for Can,
Hmm.
they really influenced whole genres of music like noise rock,
Absolutely.
noise, funk, psychedelic,
Hmm.
experimental, electronic music, hip hop. So I feel like they're one of those bands that you can find remnants of their inspiration in almost any genre.
Absolutely.
And I think that's true for the Doors too. I mean, the Doors are hugely influential, especially Morrison.
Yeah, absolutely,
I
man.
mean,
I agree. Yeah, I feel like Can for sure. Now that I've heard their music, I hear just their tone, their sound, and so much of music that I liked over the years. That's why I'm kind of embarrassing myself that I never heard of them before. Because I
well,
probably
they're
would
a
I
niche
probably would
band.
have. Yeah, I feel like
Like
I would have been rocking out to them a long time ago if I would have knew who they were.
it's
It's kind of
hard to
crazy.
find some of the more like, yeah, they have popularity, but they're still an underground niche band as far as that period.
Yeah,
They're they're not a Led Zeppelin.
right, exactly. And I'm not a huge underground music guy. Like I've never been. my entire life liking music. I've never been, except maybe with a little hip hop early on in like the '90s, but I've never been one to like, kind of seek out underground bands that people like, cult bands basically, which people love, who a lot of people don't know about. And that's probably just my detriment. I've just never been one to seek that stuff out. So a lot of music that I like, that I love, is just popular bands. Like I'm one of those dudes who like popular music. Um, it's my fault. It's what it is. But I love that I have friends like you, and friends like my buddy David, and other friends who I know, who have a really good extensive music catalog, and they can suggest cool bands and cool stuff to listen to, that I might not have known about, because I love, even though I don't seek out underground and new music, I love finding new music, because it's fun to me when I find bands that I kind of love that I didn't know about.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, it's awesome, dude. I want to mention one more person we already talked about, who was influenced kind of by Can, and it's Mr. Yeezus himself, Kanye West,
Oh yeah.
who one of his songs on "Drunk and Hot Girls," which is on the Graduation album, which features Mos Def, he sampled one of Can's songs in that song, which is kind of fucking cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
So as we've been talking about Kanye West in this in this audio podcast about rock and roll, he comes back. He makes it full circle. So that's kind of cool.
Well, it's all universal, man. I mean,
Absolutely.
I've always felt like no matter what genre something's in, I can always find stuff I like there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything's so closely related in music. People try and separate it, but man, it's pretty hard to do. Like, music's a very subjective thing. It's people's creativity, literally.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
it is what it is. Like, I listen to Deftones one minute, I listen to Dillinger Escape Plan, then I'm listening to freaking Kanye. And I
Yeah.
mean, the next second, I don't know if it's an ADD music thing or if it's just like I don't really care. All that stuff touches me in some way.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. I think that's why we both vibe with music, dude. Because I have such a, what I feel like is a large palette of different I like a lot of different genres of music. Like, just because we're talking about Kanye West, I can listen to a Kanye West album, but I can go listen to a classical album of Bach music,
Oh yeah,
or Mozart or
same.
something. Then I can go and listen to Led Zeppelin. You know what I mean? So it's like I like a lot of different music.
Hmm.
It's just the sound. I just like the sound of it. So as long as it sounds good and it's interesting, I'll pretty much listen to anything. Um, so yeah, man. So that's awesome, dude. So I mean, we both talked about the influence. So let's wrap this thing up, man. We've always been
Yep.
talking about an hour right now. Before we did this, we were like, we were probably talking for about 45 minutes or 40 minutes, and I was like, yeah, once you start talking about this shit, dude, it might last a long time. So now we're almost coming up on an hour.
You were
So
right.
let's close it out, man. I think we can close it out by basically saying, if we're going to add these specific albums that we suggested to each other to our collections, and I think I might know your answer already for the Doors, but I will say, because I've already spoiled it. But yeah, I actually added Can's album soundtracks, or soundtrack, however you say it, to my collection. It's already in my Apple iTunes playlist. It's already on my Spotify. So, and I also added more of that music. So it wasn't just like that one album. I went back and added more of the music. So Can is definitely a band that I'm going to be digging into, and digging into crates and finding a lot of their stuff, and loving them, man. So Can's awesome. So what about you with the Doors self-titled album? Does it go to your collection or not?
Yes, because I need to listen to it again.
Yes, nice. All right, that's a good answer. So I'm glad. See, even though he doesn't like it, guys, he wasn't vibing with it too heavily. Even though he does like a lot of the music, he's still giving it another chance. He's gonna listen to it
Oh, I have
more,
to.
and
I
that's
have
and
to.
that's and that's all you can do. It's all you can hope for, is for us to give you guys his music if you don't know where it is, and for you to
Well,
check it out. If you don't like it, listen to it again. You might like it a second time. You might not have been high the first time. Maybe for like the Doors music, you got to be high to listen to it. I'm not saying get
could
high.
be. Could
I'm
be.
not. I'm not saying get high. I'm not saying get high and listen to
I'm
his music,
saying
but
get high.
Larry's saying, you know what? Fuck it. Get
Get
high
high.
and listen to Can and the Doors, because it probably will make your experience 10 times better. Like, I have listened to the song "The End" while being pretty high before, and it's a different experience. I'm just gonna put it out there. It's fantastic. So yeah, so get high if you want to, or don't get high, whatever your choice is. If you're a musician, you're probably getting high, because all the musicians get high. We love to get high. I'm not a musician, but I'm putting myself in that category. Um, but yeah, man. So that's awesome. So you're adding it. I'm adding Cam. So at
Mhm.
the end of the day, We both came away with some cool music and some great discussion about this music. And this is awesome, dude. I'm glad we decided to do this, man. This was kind of
Me
fun
too.
talking to you about this. And this is probably the most serious talk we've had about music ever, because usually we just talk shit about music, and we actually kind of got serious and had like topics and quotes and stuff. So I'm glad we got through this. But yeah, episode 1 down, man. I mean, this is kind of cool. We're going to keep doing this, guys. If you like it, hit us up on Facebook. If you're friends with us or not, we'll tell you where to go. This is going to be on YouTube and maybe Spotify at some point. But look for us on the DeafNotes. That's DeafNotes podcast, which is a mix of Deftones and an anime called Death Note, if you've never heard of it, which is kind of weird but kind of cool. Not inspired by my friend David, who's currently watching Death Note. I know he'll think that, but it's not. But still love you, D. But
Shout out to Moss.
shout out to Moss. He's the man. He's probably gonna make an appearance on this podcast.
Oh, he definitely will.
Several times. Me and him have a film podcast called the Parking Lot Podcast that you guys can check out at some point whenever it comes out. We'll keep you posted. But yeah, definitely.
We're gonna have David when we pick a Wu-Tang album.
Well, yeah, but that's so on the nose. He's the biggest Wu-Tang fan. I'm going to give him something he doesn't like just to fuck with him.
Oh, all right, yeah, I'm down.
We'll probably definitely have him on for a Wu-Tang album because he has to talk about it. But I'm definitely going to suggest some music to him to get him out of his comfort zone. Maybe some Arcade Fire because he hates Arcade Fire. I'll give him like Arcade Fire album to listen to just to fuck with him because I love Arcade Fire.
He really doesn't like that bad.
He hates Arcade Fire, so that'll be my way to get at him, to give him an Arcade Fire album to listen to. But anyway, that's it, guys. We're out. Like I said, check us out on YouTube if you want to hear more of our episodes. That's the DeafNotes Podcast, and this was fun. I enjoyed it. I know Larry enjoyed it as well. Yeah. And we're out, guys. Thank you for being with us. You can find me at Instagram at Sid Antman if you want to see me taking photos of beautiful women, which is kind of all it is on there. That's SIDANTMAN, Sid Antman on Instagram. And Larry, if you want to plug any of your social media, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can.
I'll do it in the future. I don't know any of my links. I don't even know what they are.
He's too cool to give out links. I
don't even know what they are.
It's probably like he's too cool. Like Jim Morrison wouldn't give out his links.
It's probably something horrible like _audio guys. So I don't know.
It probably is. Yeah, it probably is something horrible. But anyway, it doesn't matter, guys. So get with us. We're also thinking about adding these albums to Spotify. We're going to do a Spotify playlist. So you'll be able to go and check that out, which will probably be under the DeafNotes podcast, where you can probably hear the Cans album and hear the Doors self-titled album, and eventually we'll add stuff to it every time we do an album. But yeah, that's it. We're out. Thanks for checking in with us and digging in the crates with the DeafNotes Podcast. We'll be here soon again for more music. Keep on rocking, guys.
Bye.
Later. Peace out.